Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. It's Thursday, so that means we'll have Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. And then second portion, we'll do a little high school, Baker Sporting Goods high school roundup with some playoffs going on. Talk with Mike Ridaught from the prepzone.com. Big game tonight in the National Football League, Ravens and Bengals in Baltimore. It's kind of a must-win for Cincinnati. They sit at 5-4. Let's go to the Titan Number hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements, your local roofing, siding, and window contractor serving Gainesville and surrounding areas since 1986. And we're joined by Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing fine. It's good to be with you as always. We have decided who's going to be playing in Atlanta, but there are still a lot of things to be decided. And I'm going to throw this out here, thinking ahead a little bit. Now, next week's going to be Thanksgiving week, which it's amazing it's here. But what very well may be changing, we don't know exactly. But one of the options for the expanded playoff is going to be the championship games on Thanksgiving weekend. What that means is, if that happens, the rivalry games will be this weekend next year. So, again, just folks ponder that a little bit and think about it. It's not a done deal yet, but that is one of the options. Shane, that would we're so used to Florida State Thanksgiving week. That would be quite a change, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I'm used to the Egg Bowl being on Thanksgiving night.
That's right. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's definitely going to be weird, no question about it. The SEC championship game's all set, Brent. Bama and Georgia. I mean, these two teams have been playing there pretty much every year.
Well, and there's a reason why. I mean, that they've got the best coaches and they've got the best rosters, and just on down the line. So that really, frankly, is not that big of a surprise. I think the surprise is that Alabama got things together quickly after the Texas loss, and Jalen Milroe is playing much better, and they're playing much better defensively too. Georgia looking for 3 in a row, which is also amazing, is also peaking at this time of the season. Also, so we will have strength on strength, and there are all kinds of scenarios that could come out of that SEC championship game.
Yeah, for sure. Brent, the NCAA denied James Madison and Jack State for some reason. A lot of people think they're still going to go to bowl games because there won't be enough people with good enough records. I mean, what the hell are they thinking here? Makes no sense.
It doesn't. But they've got this transition year that, for whatever reason, they've thrown that in there. But here's your thing. Right now, James Madison is 6-0 and 10-0 in the Sun Belt. Jacksonville State is 7-3 and 5-1. Also, look, these two teams would be or playing better than a lot of teams in major conferences. So they had they did not give a waiver. They won't explain why, of course, but hopefully, because there won't be enough bowl teams, these teams will be in a bowl. Now, look, here's the thing about it: if you're in a bowl game and you really don't want to be there, and you're playing James Madison or Jacksonville State, that's a problem because they will be supremely motivated to win the game.
Yes, indeed, they will be. On YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Richard says, Shane, I'm 75 years old, been going to Gator games since 1966. While I'm very comfortable financially, there's no way I'm hiring some 18-year-old to go play for the Gators. My extra money goes to my grandkids. Well, good for you. I agree with that. Brent, we just got a text here on the Titan of Mark text line from Cornelius. Cornelius wants to know if Georgia loses, what's going to happen with them to Alabama in the championship game?
Well, that is the reality is if Georgia runs the table, we think they will. So they'll go in the championship game undefeated and have been that way obviously the whole year. If Alabama wins, there is a thought that would the committee put both Alabama and Georgia in the Final Four? Well, they might. We don't know. But that possibility would be out there. Now, again, you've got a lot of other teams that are involved with this, and obviously some of this is going to play itself out. But this may be the year, Shane, where this committee really has to make some tough decisions. Often their work is done for them on the field, and it all kind of works out. But this year may not be that way necessarily. A lot of it's going to depend on what Texas does, and they've got a big game this weekend with Iowa State. That's going to be very important to them too. But I mean, let's just say Alabama nips Georgia with a field goal at the end of the game. I mean, truthfully, the way Georgia's played all year, and they won a couple in a row, and I know this is only for this year. That's what do you do with that? Now, looking ahead, I'll be brief with this. When we're talking this time next year, none of that's going to matter because they're all going to be in the 12-team playoff anyway.
Brent, looking at the 4 teams this year so far, there's a lot of the so-called experts around the country that don't think Florida State should be one of those 4. They can't figure out why Washington. Supposedly Washington's got a few better wins across the board than Florida State. Do you see a scenario where Florida State gets left out even if they go undefeated?
Well, I mean, I guess it's possible that would happen. That would certainly be disappointing. I mean, how rare do you run the table? And this is a really good football team. Now, at this point of the season, the strength of schedule, the current top 10, that is out, and the opponents' overall records. Florida State's record for their opponents right now is 50-50. Alabama's first, 58-42. Texas is second with 57-43. Georgia's third with 53-48. So the point from this is, could Florida State's record as far as their opponents, strength of their schedule, could that leave them out? We don't know. That would be awful, frankly, if that happened. The best thing they could have done this year, Shane, is, and I know it would take a lot of work, and I get this, but if they'd have started this year instead of next year, it would have really helped.
Yeah, for sure. On Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law, there's a comment here talking about a transfer 4-star wide receiver that Billy's made contacts with. Says he has to have a good year in the portal. Their pitchforks will be out. Be nice to get whoever you can get. But again, folks, what I try to express on this show is you got to take your orange and blue uniform, hat, jerseys, glasses off and think if you're that player. Yes, the Gators want that player, but do you not think Georgia or Alabama or Ohio State or
Right.
Michigan want him too? And,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
then I think people felt, and then when the guy goes somewhere else, people want to criticize the coach. And I get it, but he's going to a teams that are competing to win national titles, and that goes a long ways. I go back to the two wide receivers at Georgia. So I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I understand where people are concerned. But you gotta put yourself in that kid's position and go from there. Tim wants
Well,
to know, why do we continue to talk about Georgia? Because Georgia's a dominating program. I'm
that's
a
right.
Gator, Tim, but the facts are what Kirby Smart has done there is, in my opinion, going to surpass what Nick Saban did. I firmly
Good.
believe that. Uh,
And by the way, real quick, the guy he's talking about probably is Texas A&M receiver Raymond Cottrell. I've seen that. Not saying he's going to Florida. I don't know where he's going, but with Jimbo being fired, a lot of those guys will be transferring. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Chris says on YouTube, seems like the Gator Nation's checked out for the season. What should the fans be focused on? Recruiting the last two games, potential. You should watch the game and root for your team. I
Right.
mean, that right there is a fair weather fan, in my opinion, that has given up. Whether you're still a competitor, you got to go try to win the game. Uh, I think one of the best stories that nobody's talking about really are the Arizona Wildcats. Jed Fish, who's a Gator graduate, begged Coach Spurrier to get into coaching, was a volunteer. He's coached in the NFL. They are 7-3. They have two losses in overtime and a 7-point loss to the Washington Huskies. I mean, what he's done there is phenomenal.
It is. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, he was on the Jaguar staff for a brief period of time, and anybody who is familiar with that story, you can't help but be impressed. I mean, they've won 4 straight games, 3 games versus ranked opponents. They are 7-3. One of their losses was by a touchdown to Washington, which was one of the better teams in the country. So, point well made. He has done a tremendous job for them.
Yep, for sure. Brent, the Heisman Trophy. I basically have said that if Jaden Daniels isn't your number one guy, you should lose your Heisman Trophy vote. Um, what he has done this year is unbelievable. What he did in one game is unbelievable. And I just truly think he's the best player in America.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I can't argue with that, but it depends on what poll you look at. DraftKings has got Bo Nix number 1 now.
I don't understand that.
I don't either. And look, they've got Michael Penix 2, Marvin Harrison 3, and Jaden Daniels 4. Are you telling me that Jaden Daniels would be number 4 on that list? Now, I've seen another list that has Jaden Daniels number 1 and Bo Nix number 2, Marvin Harrison number 3, Michael Penix number 4, and Jordan Travis number 5. So it depends on the list. But look, I'm with you right now. If you've got a Heisman list and you don't have Jaden Daniels 1 or 2, I'm not sure it's very credible.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should lose their vote if he doesn't win it. Philip on the Titan MR text line from Enterprise, Alabama says, Brent, what do you think happens to the last 2 Pac-12 teams? Do they go independent or join another conference?
Well, that's a great question, and that's what they're trying to figure out right now. Is just what direction to go. You can't be independent for long. I mean, if you want to be independent for a year or 2, I get that, and that might be a wise decision just to let it settle down and then be able to figure it out. You obviously want to be in a conference if you can, because you're going to normally get more money in the conference, unless you're Notre Dame. and not everybody's Notre Dame. So we don't know. That's one thing over the next few weeks. That's going to be fascinating to see how that happens.
I got a text here on the Titanmore text line. It says, Shane, I'm watching your podcast and I'm a fellow Mississippian. Did UF pay anything for you to play? Go Gators. No, I got no dollar. I got $0. Unfortunately. Real quick, it says here, Evo Guy on YouTube, brought to you by Quad Plum, says Jaden Daniels should bring the entire Gator defense on the stage to accept the Heisman Trophy. I hear you, Evo, but you obviously haven't watched LSU play. He did this to everybody. He was doing it to Alabama until he got knocked out.
That's right.
So it's not just the Gators. He did it to everybody he played. Brent, we've had a bunch of people here ask your thoughts on the A&M job. Mike Norvell didn't really deny it. Would Drinkwitz from Missouri be in the mix? Who do you think?
Well, anything's possible. Drinkwitz has done a tremendous job at Missouri, and it may win SEC Coach of the Year. That's how good a job that he has done. Let me throw some names out here. Lane Kiffin's name is going to be mentioned, but I don't think he's going. Mike Elko was a logical one. He was the D coordinator at A&M, went to Duke. He's done a tremendous job at Duke. So that's a possibility. Norvell's mentioned, but I don't think necessarily he's going. Dan Lanning of Oregon has said no way. Now, Jeff Traylor of UTSA, Texas San Antonio, would be a really good hire. He has done a really good job. Cliff Kingsbury's name going to be mentioned. Kalen DeBoer of Washington, his name has been mentioned too. So, look, I mean, it's a good job. It's a high-pressure job. It is a big money job. And I really wonder if they're going to get some of this money, that this is something we can talk about in the off season. If some of this money is going to get more realistic as far as the buyouts are going to be concerned, because look, Jimbo's going to get his $75 million if he's coaching or not. That's the amazing thing about that. And look, to buy Jimbo out and that staff out probably is going to be, Shane, $100 million to $125 million. And as you know, it's not just the head coach, but you're dealing with other people that are involved with this too. I feel for the assistants particularly. Jimbo's got his money the rest of his life now. But those are some of the names that you hear right now for the job, and there may be, who knows what, who else may get in, throw his hat in the ring before it's over.
Yeah, his contract's crazy because he can be hired by another school, and they usually take the difference in the salaries or whatever.
Right.
They don't have to pay that portion, but they have to pay it all, even if he goes and coaches somewhere else. Radware is a family-owned business that prides itself in excellent customer service while providing quality and affordable promotional products and customized apparel. Speaking with Brent Beaird on the Titanmore Hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. Brent, I want to ask you this before we move into the conference, but most of the games this week are the cupcake games before the rivalry games. But do you know who Phil Parker is, Brent?
Phil Parker.
He's a coach in college football. I'll help you out here because he, my Inside the Huddle coach Spurrier and Steve Russell. He was my coach of the week. He is the defense coordinator of the Iowa Hawkeyes. He's been their defense coordinator.
I get. I was thinking head coach.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
He's been their DC since 2012, and it is fascinating to me. Now, granted, the Big Ten doesn't have a whole lot of explosive players except for a few teams, but what they do defensively to shut people down. I mean, I think Rutgers only had like 120 yards of total offense in the game the other day. I don't know why no one else is throwing $3 million at him to come be their defensive coordinator.
He has been with them since 1999. and their coordinator since 2010. You're right about that. I mean, he's up for the Broyles Award. That now they lead the nation in yards per play at 4, and are a top 10 in total defense. Unfortunately, one of their best players is out for the year. He got hurt over the weekend in their game. And this is amazing here. They've allowed 14 or less points in 16 of their last 23 games. Shane, who does that? That's amazing.
That's my
isn't
point.
it?
It's unbelievable how good they play defense. And it's just, I don't know why no one has, maybe they have, but could he be the first $3 million defensive coordinator or 2 million? I don't know. It's just fascinating to me how awful they play football up there.
Yes.
And how great they are on defense. So,
Yep.
We'll see.
No doubt.
All right, Brent, let's go around the SEC. We're going to skip over the cupcake games, but I guess the big game, yeah, Georgia's going to Tennessee. Tennessee, I saw a stat. They have not lost a home game under Josh Heupel, but his
Yep.
record on the road is terrible.
It is.
I still don't see. I think this game could be close in the first half, possibly, but I just think Georgia's got way too much for them.
They do. And the last 2 seasons, Heupel is 4-5 on the road. So that's their problem. I mean, look, he's done a good job there, but they have been very undisciplined and unprepared at games this year. I mean, Missouri absolutely tore them inside out, and which I think was as much on Missouri as it was on Tennessee. But look, this game is not going to be close. They will empty Neyland Stadium out by the end of the third quarter. Now, Tennessee the smartest thing they could do, their strength right now this year is running the ball and their front 7 on defense. And if they can stick to the plan there, they could stay in the game, as you said, for a bit. But I agree with you totally. This game will not be close by the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Gators go to Missouri. We struggle playing there. They're having a hell of a year. I think Eli should be coach of the year, even if Kirby goes and wins the national title. They have an opportunity to go 10-2 and go to a New Year's 6-day bowl game if they win their next 2. They're very physical on the offense and defensive lines. That's the only thing that concerns me. Their running back is a tremendous story if people haven't heard it. What do you see going on up in Columbia, Missouri?
Well, you've got to cover Cody Schrader, their running back, who was a monster against Tennessee last week. I mean, he's got almost 1,200 yards rushing, which in this league is just amazing. He had 200 yards rushing, 100 yards receiving, and only the 10th player in history to be able to do that. Brady Cook is a really good quarterback for them. And you've also got, we mentioned Burden a minute ago, is one of the better wide receivers when he's healthy, is the problem. They're 8-2. They've had a great year. Drinkwith got a raise and extension last year, but he's earned it. They've done a really good job. The thing he did that was really smart, and he says this, he said it at media days, he said, this offense is not working under me, and that's what he loves to do. He loves to call plays, but he realized that you're going to handle assistants, and they're running the offense. He's the CEO, and they've had a marvelous year, he said, because of it.
Yeah, but they're still playing good defense. That's the difference.
Yeah, well, they are.
Yeah, everybody wants to think we need an offense coordinator. I hear what they're saying, and I agree to a point. You know, look at Frank Wright at the Carolina Panthers. He's called plays his whole life, and he let somebody else call them. They ain't doing nothing, so he's going back to calling them. Kentucky at South Carolina. I thought it was interesting. Shane Beamer's name being thrown around for Mississippi State. Why is that?
I think that's because his agent is getting his name involved with that. There's a lot of game playing with these jobs, and if you've got a good agent, if your agent can get your name involved with some of these jobs, that means you'll get a raise and an extension. See, that's what happened to Jimbo. They gave him that ridiculous contract because his name was involved with the LSU job before they hired Brian Kelly. So, and that's a lot of what's happening here. Shane Beamer really, I mean, let's be honest, hasn't done. I mean, he hasn't done that much. I think he's a good coach. He's got a lot of promise, but give him time. Is he ready to go to A&M? My answer would be no.
That's pretty much the only good games in the conference this week. Brent, when you look at the Mississippi State opening, I was not surprised they fired Zach Arnett. I mean, I guess a little bit because it was before his first year was over with, but he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way when he was hired and basically just fired every one of the offensive coaches because they were all Mike Leach's guys. You had Will Rogers coming back, who is an unbelievable college quarterback in that system, was going to be the all-time leading passer in the SEC, and they just screwed the kid. They screwed Mississippi State, quite honestly.
They did. They did.
Who do you like to go to Mississippi State?
Well, there's some really interesting names here. Frankly, Jamie Chadwell from Liberty, Lance Leopold from Kansas, who I think is one of the better coaches in the nation. Willie Fritz from Tulane, I like him too. Tom Herman, obviously, has a job now in Florida with FIU, and you've got, I don't think he's ready for that job yet. The guy who really is going to get a big-time job soon is John Sumrall from Troy. You say Troy, well, I may be off on the numbers, but Sumrall at Troy is like 20-4 or something like that, and he is really going to be they love him there, and he is a big-time coach. Rhett Lashley has been mentioned from SMU as a possibility. Glenn Schumann, the D coordinator at Georgia, along with Will Muschamp there. They're co-coordinators, basically. I mean, Shane, any of those names impress you?
If I was Mississippi State, I'd hire Jamie Chadwell.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's won everywhere he's been.
Yes.
And I think he'd fit in real well in Starkville, Mississippi.
Yep. Yep. And as we said, Leopold at Kansas he builds programs. He's done a good job there. So, look, Shane, I like some of the names for the state job more than I do for the A&M job.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy is, the word is it's pretty much a done deal, but Chip Kelly's probably going to be fired at the end of this year.
Yeah, I heard that.
Think about the three people that
really
the Gators were going to hire after they fired McElwain. It was Scott Frost, Chip Kelly, and we ended up firing Dan Mullen. None of them hiring Dan Mullen and firing him. None of them are going to be coaching after this year. So it's pretty bizarre.
It is, and there's rumors about Mullen going back to state. But look, and I know he's a fit there, but the reality is Mullen doesn't like to recruit. And I'm sorry, but if you're in this league, you're going to be the coach for any of these schools. You've got to recruit if you like it or not.
Yeah, that's true. Brent, got any nuggets from the ACC for us?
I think now Clemson is playing a bit better. They've got North Carolina coming up. They have they're playing better offensively, which is impressive. Duke continues to play well. And by the way, people may or may not know this. As far as the ACC, who's going to play in the conference championship game? Now remember, they don't have divisions anymore. So FSU and Louisville have the two best records. NC State's 4-2, North Carolina's 4-2, Clemson's an amazing 4-4, and Duke's 3-3. Now, and Shane, you and I have talked about this. and we both love Jeff Brom and what he's doing. And if FSU plays Louisville, and it looks like they will, that could be a very interesting game. And look, it's just a matter of time, I think, for Brom has got Louisville really clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, he's. I wanted him. Shoot, this was, I guess, before we hired McElwain, because I think he's as good a play caller as anybody in America.
Yeah,
Wes says on Facebook. Wes says on Facebook Live, Billy Napier's not a horrible play caller, just needs to spend time in other places. I agree, but I disagree with that. Look, he needs help. He needs help. He can't do it all. I agree, but the other people need to do their responsibilities. I don't think people realize on a coaching staff, everybody has their certain phase. They're in charge of that. He oversees it, but even as the play caller and the head coach, the other people got to do their job. And I just don't see that happening a lot. And a lot of that is causing the procedural stuff that has nothing to do with X's and O's. That's my point. Brent, before we get you out of here, we had a couple of texts. They were curious right now. I know you can't tell us. Maybe you can. Your top 3 for the Heisman.
Yeah. I don't mind doing that at all. I mean, Jaden Daniels has got to be number 1. Frankly, I still like Penix of Washington, and I tell you, if and he still has a chance to do this. The guy that we haven't talked about, if Brock Bowers really plays well against Tennessee and in the championship game, I think he may get back in that mix as a possibility. It doesn't have to be a quarterback. And Marvin Harrison's in there too at Ohio State. So, I mean, for me, it'd be Hayden and Penix. I'm not sure about 3 at this point either. It may be Harrison. Frankly, I've got to think about that. But yeah, we won't, or I don't vote until the Monday after the championship game, just to be fair, and just see where the season plays out.
Yeah, Brent, good stuff as always, my man. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
Good, can't wait, bud. Take care.
That's Brent Beaird. Join us on the Tight Number Hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. Going to take a quick time out. We'll come right back. Talk a little high school sports with Mike Ridaught from Main Street Daily News and the PrepZone.com. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the morning. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Duffield Home Improvements for your window, siding, and roofing needs. Radware, your local provider of promotional products, uniforms, and apparel. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Radware, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okito America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Silverback Concrete's a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists. They build commercial structures with unrivaled quality. Silverback Concrete, you stand on it, we stand by it. I want to give a shout out to Silverback, my man Frank Stankunas, old Auburn Tiger, for supporting our show. Let's go back to the Titan MR hotline, and we are joined by Mike Ridaught from the Main Street Daily News, prepzone.com, courtesy of Duff Hill Home Improvements. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing very good, Shane. Good morning. How are you?
Good. Before we get into football, high school basketball hasn't started officially yet, right? I mean, the first games are in a week or two?
Actually, next week.
Yeah.
You've got preseason games taking place this week, so the regular season begins on Monday. Yeah, it's upon us pretty quickly here.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's start with the big schools, whatever they're called nowadays.
Okay.
They're still
Correct.
6, 7, 8As to me. Obviously, Buchholz is undefeated, destroying everybody. I firmly feel like they will win the state title. They got Ponte Vedra this week, which I think another running clock, quite honestly. Your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm ready to say it's going to be a running clock against Ponte Vedra, only because Ponte Vedra is capable of controlling the clock. They've got a running back in Brian Case who carried the ball 36 times last week for 174 yards. They lost the regular season finale to Creekside, which is in Buchholz's district, but then they beat them when it counted the most last week, 49-36 in the first round of the 4S state playoffs. They also have a Michigan committed center that he's running behind too. And Brian Burt, their quarterback, can also run the football. He's thrown for 2,000 yards, but he's rushed for 600 yards. I wouldn't say it's a foregone conclusion that Buchholz will win. Obviously, you got to take care of the ball. If Buchholz plays its game, yes, I like Buchholz to move on to the next round where they would either play Niceville or Bartram Trail. And speaking of basketball, that might be a basketball type game. Bartram Trail beat Navarre last week 67-55, and Niceville beat Nice 56-21. So that could be a shootout. But that's the second consecutive week that Bartram Trail has had to go to the Panhandle because they had to go to Navarre last week. But the good news is, because Buchholz is the number one overall seed in 4S, they would host all the way through the state semifinals. So at least they'll be at home, and we'll see if that can help carry them to a state championship game appearance. They haven't won a state title since 1990, Shane. So, it's been a really good year overall. First undefeated season since 2001. Bobcats really playing well, and all three phases really last week in a 59-0 win against Lynn Haven Mosley last week.
Yeah, I didn't realize Ponte Vedra had moved up to that classification, and I saw they played Creekside last week. Why in the world is Ponte Vedra not in the same district as Creekside? They're like 10 miles apart.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, does it?
Yeah, it's a typical FHSA. Okay, let's just leave it at that. Makes absolutely no sense.
I agree.
So, all right. So, any other bigger type schools before we move to the rural schools still playing ball in Ocala, maybe in this area?
Among the suburban teams, Lake City Columbia got beat last week, so their season is over. Ocala, Vanguard's still in it. They are a top seed in Region 2, 3S Region 2. They've got Zephyr Hills on Friday night. Class 2S, Bradford and Eastside will play. This is going to be obviously a tough matchup for Eastside. Eastside, Shane, last week, I don't know if you heard the details of their game against Palatka. Kind of a strange ending to this one. Eastside scored with 3 minutes to play in the game. Adrian Curtis threw a 40-yard touchdown pass to Antonio Wilson to make it 28-21. Eastside kicks off. Ty Valentine fumbles the kick, picks it up, and then races down the left sidelines for a touchdown. He does his best Deion Sanders high step imitation as he's heading towards the end zone, celebration in the end zone, flag on the play. Well, they got penalized for taunting, for celebrating. Harold Gator Hoskins, the East Side coach, had noticed that their kicker had been struggling to make extra points. So he decided, instead of assessing the penalty on the kickoff, he would assess it on the conversion. Well, that backed them up to the 17-yard line. They were forced to go for two. They didn't have a kicker that could kick it that far. They did not make it, and Eastside holds on and wins it 28-27. So
Wow.
it's kind of a crazy ending for Eastside to win that game. But, kudos to Gator. Here they are 2 years in a row now that they've won their first-round playoff game, but they won't win against Bradford. I mean, Bradford is just playing extremely well. They were in the state semifinals last year, and how about this, Shane? Bradford has outscored their opponents 363-42. And that includes a 34-7 win against Eastside on September the 15th. So I like Bradford to move on to the region final next week. Let's see, 1S, you got Trinity Catholic. They did not play last week. 1S did not play last week, so they play their games this week. Trinity Catholic will actually be at home, even though they're a 3 seed and Holy Trinity Episcopal Academy is a 2 seed, because Trinity Catholic was a district champion. So that's the suburban class.
Yeah, Bradford. I think Bradford will play for a state title, probably from some team down in Miami, Poco or somebody like that.
Poco,
The 1A teams, obviously in our area, are very good. Who are the matchups this week?
Got some pretty good matchups. In Region 3, Union County is at Fort White. Fort White's only lost 1 game this year. Union County has played their losses have been very close. They lost to a Walton team that's in the second round of the state playoffs in their classification. They lost in double overtime. They lost to Orlando Christian Prep by 1. They lost to Hawthorne in a game that was just 14-0 in the third quarter, and they were marching down the field and threw an interception in the end zone that would have made it a 1-score game. So I think defensively, Union County has a good chance, to advance to the region final. That is in Region 3. But we've been talking about 1R Region 4 all year long and how loaded the region is, Shane. You've got Newberry, which is the 3 seed, will play at number 2 seed Hawthorne on Friday night. I'll be broadcasting that game on 106.9 FM. We're also going to be streaming video via the NFHS network. Hawthorne, obviously the defending 1R state champion. And then Williston is the top seed in that region. They've got a pretty athletic Pahokee team, which is a 4 seed. Pahokee pounded Dixie County last week 56-0, scored 35 points in the second quarter to put a running clock on them. So some couple good matchups, particularly in Region 4. I picked Williston to win this game, but I wouldn't be surprised if Pahokee wins it. We could have a rematch of Hawthorne and Pahokee in the region final. But don't count out Newberry. Newberry's got Kill McGriff at quarterback. He's thrown for 2,000 yards this year, had 5 touchdown passes last week. They got a 1,000-yard rusher in Caleb Woods. They've got some really good receivers. Their front 7 is really, really good. They've got Jarquez Carter on that defense, which, he's received 20 offers, I believe, Power 5 offers. So, it's a good defense up front. So that one should be a good one as well.
All right, so I get so confused in the 1A because some of the teams are in our area, but then they got to play teams in the Panhandle to get to. So Union County, if they beat, you said Fort White or whoever wins that game, will they play like Madison County or somebody?
Yes, because Madison County will play Mayo Lafayette. Lafayette beat Brantford last week. So the winner of Madison County Lafayette will play Fort White Union County winner in the region final for the right to go to the state semifinals. Union County beat them last year, but I think Madison County is a little bit better this year. So I think it would be a little tougher matchup, especially since the winner of that Fort White Union County game would have to go to Madison County.
Yeah. So the one, is it 1R, 1S, whatever it is, it's good football.
Yeah, 1R.
In our area. And I mean, right now, do you think Hawthorne can go back to back?
They certainly have the talent. They've had a big year from CJ Ingram. He'll go over 2,000 yards passing on Friday. They played one less game, but they're undefeated for the second consecutive year, 9-0 going into this one. 27 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. They've got Keenan Johnson in the backfield. He is a 1,000-yard rusher for them. Andrew Zock has been a big transfer for them on the defensive side of the ball. He's averaging double-digit tackles per game. He is a Navy commit. But then you throw in Alvin Isaac at wide receiver. He's a South Florida commit. He's caught almost 800 yards in receiving and 13 touchdowns. They've got some playmakers. They do get this one at home against Newberry. Looking ahead, possible Williston match. I think they could beat either Williston or Pahokee. But then you start looking at the Final Four. Now, they'll reseed the teams when they get to the state semifinals. So Hawthorne, could be at home through the state semifinals like Buchholz. So I think they could win it. I think as long as they don't beat themselves, I think they've got the talent to win another state title this year.
Andy has a question here. I'll chime in on it too. Brought to you by Melton Law. Who do you think will be the best college quarterback? Chance to be the best college quarterback over the next couple of years, Trace or Keel McGriff? I'll give you my 2 cents after you, Mike.
I've seen both of them play. They're both sophomores. I would probably have to go with Johnson.
Yeah. Keel's more of an athlete back there, and Keel's not very tall. Trace might be 5'11". Here's the bottom line. They both need to grow. They're both really good high school players. If they don't grow, they won't be playing quarterback at the next level.
But the good thing is with them only being sophomores, they still have some time to grow.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You're
but
right.
They're really, really good high school quarterbacks for what they try to do. Trace is more of a natural thrower. Keel's more of the athlete because Keel plays a little defense too. I think he plays corner for him as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So bottom line is to play quarterback at the next level, they're both going to get taller. But I wanted to ask you, Mike, you've been covering sports a long time, and I've seen a couple of the games. I just think the world of Miles Graham. I think he, in all the years that I've been I coached high school ball and been watching ever since my son graduated. I think he's the best high school player I've seen. Where would you rank him with what you've seen?
Oh gosh, Shane. Now I've seen so many players at the high school level. I mean, you're talking about going back and seeing guys like Danny Warple play in high school. Derrick Henry from Yulee. I've seen him play.
Well, he was a man among boys too.
Right. Yes, he was. So I've seen a lot of good high school players, but Miles Graham is a difference maker. We talked about that same comment that he's a man amongst boys. And when Quentin Culler went down with an injury, the running back for Buchholz, he stepped in. He ran for over 200 yards, helped them get a big district win earlier this year. And that's what he did on the offensive side of the ball. We know he's being recruited, to the Gators for his defense. And certainly on defense, he's a difference maker. You look in his overall stats may not jump out at you, 51 tackles and 6 tackles for a loss, but, teams are trying to run away from him. You've got another Gator right there on the front line in Jackson for Buchholz. So I would definitely put him up there pretty high, though, especially when you talk about some of the great players that have played in the city of Gainesville. He's definitely top 5. Of course, last year we just had Mr. Football for the first time ever in Alachua County with Whittemore. So I'm not going to say Whittemore's a better football player than Miles Graham, but I think he needs to be in that conversation when you talk about some of the great football players to ever play in Gainesville. But there's no question Miles Graham is a difference maker. And like you said, when the games are on the line, you put him wherever you need him to be to get a win, whether that's defense or offense, because he can play just about any position.
Andy wants to know if he'll play some running back through the playoffs. Yes, he will. I talk to their coaches once or twice a week, and when things get going, especially inside the red zone, they're going to put him at the wildcat position. That's basically they put him at wildcat, snap it to him, and see if the other team can tackle. Mike, good stuff as always. Let everybody know how they can read your stuff on Main Street Daily News and tune into the broadcast this week.
Yeah, in fact, my latest article at Main Street Daily News was about Chiefland's football coach stepping down. James Corbin has stepped down after 2 years to spend more time with his family. It's really been a busy month and a lot of state champions. Ava Fuller, Gainesville swimming won a state championship. So you can read about more than just football at Main Street Daily News. And then we'll have our regional rankings up at the prepzone.com for, we rank the top 20 high school football teams across 26 counties. That's being released today. But as far as our coverage tomorrow, Shane, Marty's going to call that Buchholz game. That will be broadcast on the NFHS network. So pay-per-view video for that one against Ponte Vedra. And then, as I mentioned, we'll have radio and video for our game between Hawthorne and Newberry. We'll have recaps of both of those games at MainStreetDailyNews.com.
Good stuff as always, my man. Appreciate your time,
All right,
Mike.
Shane,
We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds
That's
good.
Mike
Thanks,
Ridaught.
Shane. Join
us on the Titan Novemer hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. Rick says, don't forget about Chris Rump, who's now with the Chart. Yeah, he was a good player, but Miles Graham's different. I mean, he's like the Derrick Henry. You could tell the difference of the kind of player they were as soon as you just saw them. This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. In 1957, the University of Oklahoma football team's win streak ends at 47 straight games after losing 7-0 to Notre Dame at Oklahoma. 47, that's a lot of games. That's This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Jason on YouTube brought to you by Quality Plumbing says, keep an eye out on Savvy Misick, who's coached by Chris Leak. That's his private coach. He doesn't coach him in high school. He runs the air raid. He puts up a lot of stats, but his problem too is height. As right now, I know he's young. He can grow. There was one here. Oh, this is text on the Titan Novemer text line I want to read here. It's kind of long, but I'm going to read it. So, Shane, can we tell all these fair weather fans to shut the blank up and support their team, players, and coaches in all kinds of weather? This is not a fast rebuild. Billy is rebuilding from dirt, not the studs, not the foundation, the dirt. These fans that are calling for Billy's replacement are a factor of the following. 1, recent grad of a #1 academic school. They never attended the occasional football game in school and send $0 to the Gator Collective. 2, never took a class here and only knew no Gator football since 1990. I feel Billy should make some changes, but let's watch and see what happens. Enjoys what could be for the next great era of Gator football. Go Gators. Thanks for the text. Somebody in the Tampa area sent that. Rose Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. I want to thank our good friend Brent Beaird and Mike Ridaught, who does a tremendous job with high school sports in the area, North Central Florida, for coming on the program today. Tomorrow, what is tomorrow? Tomorrow's Friday. We'll have JC. I was supposed to have somebody from Missouri. Some of these opposing teams, they don't do what you ask them to do. I may just start denying going on their shows. Anyone wants to know, is this your first visit to Columbia? No, I went 2 years ago, and it was a mess. Their airport runway was shut down, so we had to fly into St. Louis and then bus over. Just a disaster. So hopefully the Columbia, Missouri runway is open for this trip. It's a terrible press box. Probably that and Vanderbilt, worst press boxes in the league. I mean, like so small, high schoolish. But maybe they'll take some of the money they get from their New Year's 6-day bowl and build a bigger press box eventually. All right, so that's going to do it for today's program. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Have a great day. You got a good NFL game tonight to watch, Ravens and the Bengals. Have a great day, folks. Take care.